On a Thursday evening, and I hope you all had a wonderful week. We are delighted to have our second session of healthy eating, which is on diabetes. We started off with our intro last week, and I have to say that, Simone, you are one of the best instructors that I have been hearing so many sessions. And I mean, I know the importance of nutrition that you talked about for the seniors and all the common health concerns and things like that. But what I really liked about um, one thing that you had said, and I took that as a takeaway, and you said, do me a favor and just have a bowl of salad every day. And if that is your takeaway, that's what it is. And for me, that was what it was. And I mean, not that I was eating salad, but now I make it a point that I don't miss a single day. And so thank you for teaching in some simple ways that you can incorporate. And hopefully, as the weeks go by, one week at a time, if we incorporate 12 things in our lives, in our daily lives, I think we will be so far ahead. So thank you so much, and welcome everyone. And we are delighted to start our second session of healthy eating. Take it away, Simone.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much, Anu. I really appreciate your kind words. That's exactly it. It can be so simple. Something so simple can have such a powerful impact. And I would ask all the participants, if you can track, if you start making the changes, like you said, Anu, from the first session, and then track how you're progressing. Keep an eye on your blood sugar. Keep an eye on how you feel. Keep an eye on whether you have brain fog or whether you're really sharp in your mind, whether you're sluggish, whether you're struggling with energy. Those are the feedback nuggets that your body gives back to you to tell you whether what you're doing is good or what you're doing is not good. So if you could see how you feel after you have a bowl of cereal or bowl of pasta and you feel all sluggish and tired and sleepy, you'll understand why. But today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics because it's so simple. So here's me again from last time. Let's talk about diabetes in seniors in particular. So first and foremost, I want to emphasize again, and I'll do this at every session, that food is your medicine and medicine is your food. So Father Hippocrates, the father of everything medicine back thousands of years ago, has actually said this, and he was right. He still is. Food can be such medicine, but it can also be poison. So if you use it, much like a knife, think of like a knife. You could use it for good reasons. You could use it for not so good reasons. So use food to heal yourself. Use food as nourishment for the body. Now, diabetes is one of the leading diseases in the world. In fact, 422 million people worldwide have diabetes. And 1.5 million people die every year as a result of diabetes. So you guys, just like I said to you last week, it's never too late to start investing in your health. Never. It's never too late. No matter how old you are, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're in between, teenager, young adult, it doesn't matter. Food will always be welcomed, especially good food will always be welcomed by your body. Now, diabetes has a very profound and significant impact on seniors' health, and it is one of the leading diseases in the world. And the number of cases and the prevalence of diabetes has been steadily increasing over the past few decades. And this is from the WHO website that I'm telling you. So let's go over what it is, the types of diabetes, and how diabetes affects seniors. But first, it's a very sobering diabetes fact. Every 17 seconds, someone is diagnosed with diabetes in the United States. Now let that sink in. 17 seconds. So if you count 17 seconds, somebody got a diagnosis. The next 17 seconds, another person. And then 17 seconds, another person. That's a lot of people, and very quickly. And every 30 seconds, a leg is amputated throughout the world as a result of diabetic foot ulcers. So 85% of these amputations are as a result of just that. So again, it's one of the leading diseases in the world. And a reminder, 422 million people worldwide have diabetes. I really want to emphasize this for you guys because it is such a prevalent disease. Last week, I told you guys that there's a set of diseases that are so prevalent, and heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and cognitive decline. We're going to concentrate on diabetes today. And the diabetes spectrum, and this is how it starts. Basically, you start with hyperinsulinemia. And what that is, I'll go over each one of them so that you understand. It's basically just elevated insulin. Hyper means too much, big, so it's elevated too much. And insulinemia, as you could see, the word insulin is in there, so it's elevated insulin. Then, once you have elevated insulin, you're going to become insulin resistant. So a lot of people have insulin resistance as part of their diagnosis. And basically what that means is that the body does not allow the glucose from the foods that you're eating to get into the cells and be used to make energy. One of the next phases, oftentimes it's the non-alcoholic liver disease. And we call it non-alcoholic because it comes from sugar. And a lot of times in alcohol, there is a lot of sugar. But you'll find that there are people who don't drink, and my father was one of them, and he became diabetic. And the doctor was actually, he kept insisting that my father must be an alcoholic because he had, fatty liver disease. And we had to convince him that actually, no, he was not drinking any alcohol. My dad actually hated alcohol, but he was eating a lot of sweets. I mean, my father was so addicted to sugar, he would put sugar on a slice of bread, white bread, and he would eat that. That's how much of an addiction he had. So non-alcoholic liver disease comes from fatty liver, and that's as a result of eating too many sweets. And then the final state is type 2 diabetes. This is basically the spectrum of diabetes that most people go through. And basically type 2 diabetes, to give you guys an idea, it's just how much of the red blood cells are saturated with sugar, and it's the disease of carbohydrate intolerance. Now, what is diabetes? Well, it's a chronic condition that affects how the body processes glucose. And glucose is another word for sugar. And sugar goes through many, many words. And the food industry hides a lot of these words in the food labels so that people are not in the know about how much sugar they're consuming, which is why we have such a prevalence of diabetes. Now, insulin is what regulates the blood sugar levels. And in case you're wondering what insulin itself is, like from a scientific perspective, it's a vital hormone that's produced by your pancreas, and it acts as the body's key to regulating blood sugar levels. And what it actually does when I say that it's the key is it allows the glucose, so the sugar, from the bloodstream to enter into the cells where it's used to make energy. So we feel like we have energy. Now, the 4 types of diabetes, and I spoke about this in much of the social media stuff that I put out there over the last couple of days, and I emphasize that there are 4 types of diabetes. I know that a lot of people are concentrating on the diabetes that they know of or the diabetes they're afflicted with, but all in all, from a scientific perspective, there are 4 types. So let's go over them now. Type 1 is an autoimmune condition, and that's how it's known in the scientific world, that primarily develops in childhood or adolescence. And this condition is it's when the body's immune system mistakenly attacks itself, and it attacks the pancreas that's producing the cells. And those cells are known the beta cells, and they are the ones that are afflicted. Now, give me one quick second, everybody. I'm just going to take my view off so that I could speak to you without having the screen obstructed for me. Now, type 2 diabetes, it's actually the most common form of diabetes, and it's often linked to the lifestyle factors and to aging. So we see a lot of type 2 in the elderly most of the time. It typically develops in adults, although it can occur at any age, but for the most part, the reason why it happens later on in life is because, well, you've had more time during your life to do damage to the body to get to the point of diabetes. Whereas when you're younger, the body is much more it's much stronger, it's much more resilient, it's able to take a lot more abuse. But when this abuse accumulates over time, things start to break down. And in this instance, especially because we eat multiple times a day, we consume beverages multiple times a day, that's what happens when we get in the older stages. So lifestyle related factors such as poor dietary choices, sedentary behavior, which means that you're not moving, so you're not going for a walk, you're not going to the gym, you're not exercising, and obesity can increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. For example, diets that are high in refined sugars and unhealthy fats combined with a lack of physical activity can contribute to insulin resistance, which means that the body's cells don't respond effectively to insulin. And this, in the end, results in elevated blood sugar levels. So the blood gets saturated with sugar and it stays with that sugar for a long time. And over time, what happens is the pancreas struggles to produce enough insulin to be able to deal with all that blood sugar. That is what leads to type 2 diabetes. So seniors are at a higher risk due to the age-related factors, but lifestyle changes can help manage and prevent this type of diabetes for anybody, whether you're elderly, whether you're young, whether you're old. So number one and most important thing is change the diet and change it quickly. With type 1, because it's typically a damaged organ, you don't have as much latitude in what you can do. But with type 2, you have so much more power, because if you change the lifestyle and you're able to get that sugar out of your blood, then you're making traction. But with type 1, it's much more difficult. Type 3 diabetes, this is a term that it's been used informally. So it's not yet known as type 3, but in the scientific and medical circles, this is what it's being referred to as. So it's been informally used in some contexts, but it actually refers to conditions that are associated with changes in the brain and insulin resistance, particularly in the context of Alzheimer's. So that kind of ties in with what I was telling you guys about, like cognitive diseases, so diseases of the brain. And this is one of them, especially Alzheimer's and dementia. So research has suggested that there may be a link between insulin resistance in the brain and the development of Alzheimer's, leading to this informal use of type 3 diabetes. Because we're already aware of type 1, we're already aware of type 2, we've known these, we've studied them. Now we are seeing this connection between cognitive dysfunction and the diets that we're eating that are leading to this kind of cognitive dysfunction. So it's important to note that this term is not officially recognized. So I don't want anybody going around and saying, I have type 3 diabetes. It's much more research is needed, but I do believe that you should go and speak to a doctor or a professional, a healthcare professional, so that they can understand exactly what's going on, especially if you find that you have insulin resistance, if you're having any kind of brain disorder or anything like that. Please go and talk to your doctor and make the connection. Let somebody actually give you a proper diagnosis. And the fourth type of diabetes is gestational diabetes. This is only for the ladies. So gentlemen, you're not afflicted by this. It's a unique form of diabetes that occurs during pregnancy. So its relevance is important for even senior women, because what happens, it has long-term effects after the pregnancy. So while gestational diabetes typically resolves after you have the children, so after birth, women who have had it have a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So if you already had it during pregnancy, you have a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So it's no longer called gestational because that's only for pregnancy, but you are at a higher risk of developing that type 2 diabetes later on in life, especially as like these women enter the senior years. So if you suffered from it during pregnancy, if any of the ladies here in the audience today have suffered from it during their pregnancy or know someone who has, it's important that you monitor it on an ongoing basis and work hard at maintaining a healthy lifestyle even after the pregnancy to minimize the risk of diabetes in the future. And I think it's also worth noting that oftentimes the baby is very much affected by the mom's diabetes when she is pregnant with the baby. So if you have concerns about diabetes, its potential links to any health conditions, even cognitive dysfunction, please talk to a healthcare professional for a proper diagnosis and get some guidance and manage your health appropriately. So these are the 4 types. I will take questions at the end of this presentation. So hold your questions, write them down so you don't forget them, because I really want you guys to understand what each one of them means. Now, let's move on to, I'm so sorry, my screen keeps messing up a little bit, but let me adjust it here. This is how diabetes affects seniors. It has a huge impact on senior overall health and well-being. Now, common diabetes complications include cardiovascular problems, and I know a lot of people don't even make the connection, neuropathy, and vision issues. So my grandfather, maternal grandfather, had diabetes. He went blind. He had to have both of his legs amputated. So vision issues are very important. So if you do find that your vision is deteriorating quickly and you see that you're not managing your blood sugar, please consult with your doctor. Now, what are some of the other things that diabetes affects? So from a physical health perspective, diabetes can have a significant impact on elevated blood sugar levels. And if left uncontrolled, it can lead to other health complications, such as cardiovascular issues like heart disease, stroke, which yours truly had back in 2011, and high blood pressure. It also affects nerve damage. And this is what I mean when I talk about neuropathy. Diabetes can result in nerve damage, which is known as neuropathy. Seniors that are already diagnosed with neuropathy will experience tingling, numbness, or pain in the extremities, especially the fingers or the feet and the toes, which can affect mobility and, of course, quality of life, right? Because if you have tingling feet and you're not steady, you're not going to be able to walk. So that really affects, or the same thing with hands, you're going to drop things of that nature. Where it comes to vision, if your diabetes is left uncontrolled, it's going to definitely lead to eye problems, including diabetic retinopathy. So your retina will be affected, and it's going to result in vision impairment or even blindness, especially if you leave it unlooked at. So you have to go and get treatment for that. Kidney function, and this is a big one. Seniors with diabetes are at an increased risk of kidney problems, including nephropathy. So nephrology is the study of kidneys. So you are going to be affected by, the kidneys will definitely be affected if you have diabetes that's left uncontrolled. And it actually progresses very silently, and it's very insidious. You won't even know it. So it's crucial for seniors to have regular checkups to monitor kidney function. You do not want to end up on dialysis. So make sure that you keep track of that. Mental health is also something that's very much affected by diabetes, and managing the condition can be so taxing. So if you have diabetes, it's so confusing because you don't know whether this food is okay, whether this food is not okay. But I'm going to demystify that, because that's actually the simplest thing. Instead of trying to see what you can't eat or what you should take away or what you should avoid or what you should eat in small amounts, it's much better to just say, okay, this is what you can eat, and just eat that, instead of trying to keep track and memorize all the things you cannot eat. So you don't want to have that kind of stress. You don't want to have that kind of emotional, upheaval, especially when you're trying to navigate the waters, not knowing your way around. So here's what you could do. You could be proactive. And if you're going to be managing your sugar by yourself proactively, eating healthy, getting some physical activity, even if it's just a walk, that counts as exercise, you guys. And I can't even tell you how much good that does on how many levels. A lot of people think it's just a walk, but it's not just a walk. It actually oxygenates you. It helps with your digestion. It helps strengthen your bones. It helps strengthen your muscles. It does so much for mental health, like even for just going out and getting a breath of fresh air will really help you. It'll balance you. It'll get you away from screens or from anything that's happening in the household, like some sort of a fight with a friend, anything like that. Going for a walk is going to always help in every way, even if you have diabetes. So that's important. And it's also important to get educated. I think it's very, very important to know what you're dealing with, where it's coming from, what you can do. So seek the support and work with a professional. And I'm not just talking with a doctor. I strongly suggest you go and keep on top of your blood work so that you could see exactly what your sugars are at. And I'm going to be talking about this in more detail in a later lecture, but it's important that you keep on track with your healthcare professionals. And then it's important to work with someone that can demystify on the things that you can and cannot eat, because those are the things that you do all day, every day. You eat multiple times a day, you drink different beverages throughout the day. So it's important that you have the awareness of the importance of how you can manage and take accountability and empower yourself to know that a lot of what you can do is going to give a lot back to you. It's health, it's your health, right? Now, I want to get you guys involved. So let's work together to identify some of the diabetes risk factors and the signs. And I put them on the screen for you guys. So here's a little quiz to help you identify them. And you can respond with a yes or no to each risk factor. So if you want to take a screenshot, or of course, I'm going to be giving you guys this presentation, but maybe get a piece of paper for yourself so that you could see where you're at and if you're at any risk. So the number one thing is there family history of diabetes in your family? Do you have a family history of diabetes? Number two, obesity. Are you currently overweight or obese? Have you gone to the doctor? They do measurements like BMI, they take your weight in relation to your height. So those things are important so that you know whether you are considered overweight or obese, because at least if you know that that's a risk, then you know that you should look at other things. So it's very important to know. Do you have a sedentary lifestyle, or do you engage in a little bit of physical activity, or do you have a mostly sedentary lifestyle? Like, do you sit in front of the TV, or do you sit at a desk for 8-9 hours? Do you get no movement? Do you take elevators? Do you take walks? Do you not take walks? Do you go to the gym? Do you not go to the gym? When you get to the gym, what do? Do you go and do a little bit of cardio, some sort of cardio, whether it's an elliptical trainer, just a walk on the treadmill, especially if the weather doesn't allow you to be outside? And I want to emphasize where that's concerned, it's important to know that there are always opportunities. Anything can be done. So for example, if you can go outside because it's a nice sunny day or it's dry, there's no precipitation, you could go for a walk outside. When winter hits, especially for us Canadians, because it does get cold and it does get risky, there's a lot of ice and a lot of snow, so walking becomes quite difficult to do in Canadian winters. There's so much that you can do even in those instances. You could go and join a community center, you could go join a gym. It's important not only for the fact that you could go on a treadmill and do a little bit of cardio, but you could create an amazing network. There are other people there you could socialize with. You create a community. You create a tribe that you could be part of. You could talk to people about some of the things that they learned. So it's a positive on so many levels. So sedentary lifestyle, it's an important one, and there's so much you could do about that, and you could create a community for yourself. And what about your diet? Do you consume a diet high in sugary processed foods and low in vegetables and whole grains? Do you eat a lot of junk? Are you mostly healthy? And what do you consider to be healthy? Do you fast? And on to high blood pressure. Have you been diagnosed with high blood pressure? And it's also known as hypertension. So if you've heard that word, that's what it's referring to. Hyper, like we were talking about hyperinsulinemia. Hyper means big, large. So hyper means high blood pressure, big blood pressure. And cholesterol. Do you have high cholesterol levels? Have you been diagnosed with that? Did the doctor do any tests, especially like your blood tests, and tell you that you have a lot of cholesterol? And you probably would have heard about HDL, which is high density cholesterol, or LDL, low density cholesterol. Those are things that you probably heard from your doctor if you were diagnosed with that. And smoking. Are you a current or a former smoker? Did you smoke in the past? Are you currently smoking? And yes, 1 cigarette counts. If you're doing it, it means that you are actually participating in that behavior. So And then gestational diabetes for the ladies. Did you develop diabetes during pregnancy? This is something that I touched on earlier. Did you develop diabetes while you were pregnant? Usually doctors will check this during pregnancy. I know that they checked me with both my pregnancies, and they look for a certain level in the blood. And age, are you over the age of 45? This is a risk factor. People over the age of 45, and I'm one of them, are at a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And stress. Do you experience chronic stress in your daily life? And let me tell you, stress alone can raise your blood sugar, even if you're not eating sugar. And the same thing, I think I mentioned to you guys last week, and if I didn't, I apologize, but I'll mention it now. There was a study done with soldiers where they were sleep deprived and they turned diabetic. So just the fact that they were not able to get proper sleep, that the body looks for to do its detoxification processes and go through its healing and its cleaning up, that turned these people diabetic. When they had their blood tested after a certain period of time that they were sleep deprived, they were diabetic. So after you responded for yourself, take a moment to reflect on the risk factors that apply to you. If you've answered yes to any of these, consider discussing them with your doctor or a healthcare provider, whoever you're working with, and explore ways to reduce your risk of developing diabetes. And it's as easy as changing your diet and going and joining a gym so that you can actually be part of a community and get some movement. Simple. Those two things will do so much good for you, because diabetes prevention and management begins with awareness. So if you are able to do this exercise, you are ahead of so many other people, because at least you have the education and the knowledge, and now you can develop a plan of action and a strategy for your next step, right? All right. So everybody, if you have your answers, keep them, discuss them with your doctor. Now, let's look at signs of diabetes. We'll continue with this education so that you can understand exactly what actually shows you that you could potentially have this. So here's a checklist of the common signs and symptoms, and here they are. So frequent urination. Are you finding yourself urinating more often, especially during the night? Extreme thirst. You often feel unusually thirsty even after you've drank fluids. So let's say you had a tea and you feel so thirsty. You already had a fluid, therefore you shouldn't have any kind of dry mouth or anything like that, but you're still looking for something to drink because you're thirsty. Unexplained weight loss. Have you experienced significant weight loss without changes in the diet or physical activity? And for those of you that are curious, because I had this question just the other day, this lady asked me, how is it that you lose weight if you have diabetes? Typically people who are, you just ask if I'm overweight, because typically only overweight people. Yes. So what happens is this: if when we eat, the sugar from the food has to get into the cell for the body to make energy, ATP, then the body takes that energy and uses it for things that we do every day. So if you're going to go to pick up, the grandkids from school, or if you have to drive and do something, or you're gardening or whatever, you need that energy. What happens is when you cannot get the sugar into the cells, what the body does is it turns to other alternate sources of energy, and typically turns to your fat and to your muscle, lean muscle. So a lot of times what people do is they start to lose this weight very quickly because the body does not have access to the sugar from the food. A lot more sugar ends up in the blood while that sugar cannot get into cells. So that's why people lose a lot of weight. And you see them, and it's very clear, despite the fact that oftentimes we look for people to be overweight when they're diabetic. So that's how it works when you have unexplained weight loss. Increased hunger. Are you constantly feeling hungry or needing to eat more than usual? I mean, for the younger ladies, if you're pregnant or if you're near your menstrual cycle, that's explainable. But if you're in your later years and you're no longer dealing with that, or if you're one of the gentlemen here and you're feeling hungry or needing to eat more than usual, and it's not because you're going to the gym and doing extreme workouts, then that's something that you should discuss with your doctor and really look at what's causing that. Fatigue, do you frequently feel tired even after you've gotten a lot of rest? So let's say you go to bed at a really good time, you get 8 hours of sleep, but you still wake up and you're not feeling rested. That could be a sign of diabetes. Of course, blurred vision. Is your vision suddenly blurry or unfocused? Remember, we were talking about how vision is one of the things that diabetes affects. Slow healing wounds. If you get cut or if you have bruises or sores, do these take longer than usual or that they have taken in the past for you to heal? That's something that you should also consult with a doctor. And remember, neuropathy, tingling or numbness in your hands or in your feet. Yeah, so that's a sign of diabetes. That's actually a very big telltale sign. And recurrent infections, you have frequent or persistent infections such as urinary tract infections or skin infections. So that's something that you should also check with your doctor if you do find that you do have a lot of that. And irritability, are you feeling more irritable or moody than usual? That's from extreme, and erratic blood sugar. A lot of times people when your blood sugar drops, the mood is affected. So if you are someone that you know in your family, for example, is experiencing several of these symptoms, it's important to consult a healthcare professional to get a proper evaluation and to get tested for diabetes. And that's very important because early detection and management are crucial for maintaining health and well-being. So I hope that you have taken notes. The next thing I want to share with you guys is the recipe of the week, what you should eat. And I'm going to get you guys to tell me quickly, just from looking at this nice recipe that I put together for you here, what stands out to you guys the most. I'll go through it really quickly because I want you guys to understand the benefits of it, because you may be wondering. But as you could see, it's just a very simple stir fry. I like to keep everything simple. And the reason for that is because oftentimes when you see that there's too much to do, a lot of preparation, having to watch the clock to make sure that it doesn't burn or anything like that, like especially if you're baking. A lot of people get turned off by that. They're like, oh, that's a lot of work. I don't want to do that. I'm going to forget. But these things are very quick, very simple, very easy. And they are really, really good for you. They actually really nourish the body, which is the most important thing. So a nice stir fry is comprised of a lean protein source. So I put salmon as an example, only because I love fish. But if you want to do it with anything like chicken, or if you want to do it with beef, whatever you want, a lean protein source is great. You can even scramble some eggs if that's your thing. Add some colorful bell peppers, broccoli florets, cauliflower florets, some sliced mushrooms, and some sliced zucchini, some soy sauce or tamari for taste, some really good garlic. And by the way, that's going to be the star thing for anti-cancer when we do that in the following weeks. Some ginger and some avocado oil. And I gave you the instructions. Make sure you bake the salmon in the oven. To make it simple, just add some salt and pepper and cayenne pepper. And in a large pan, heat the avocado oil and stir fry all the vegetables until they're about tender crisp. And then put the salmon on top and voila, really quick and easy. So for those of you that have taken a screenshot or are taking notes of this, I really am curious what stands out. I'm going to move over to the questions for any of you that have any questions, but I do want to hear what stands out of everybody who watched this. What stands out about this meal that I put together for you guys?
Broccoli for me.
Broccoli, okay. What else? Anybody else?
There's no starch.
That's right. That's right. No starches. Nothing. Let me go
I
back.
love all vegetables.
Yes, vegetables are amazing. A lot of fiber. It will help you with your digestion. You get a lot of the nutrients out of those. So you have a lot of vitamin C, you have a lot of calcium, of course, like all the vitamins, minerals, all the nutrients, carbohydrates, everything is in there. But that's right, no starch. So as you can see, there's no pasta, there's no rice, there's no bread, nothing.
Is it all right to have these vegetables with a little bit of pasta?
If you do to avoid diabetes, I would say no. This will satiate you, and because it has a lot of a lot of fiber, it's not going to leave you hungry. It's actually going to let you feeling very full.
Okay. Instead of the lean protein source, which is, I am a vegetarian. So what would I substitute that fish and meat with?
You could do eggs, like I said, or you could do tofu.
Tofu. Okay. No, I don't eat eggs. So,
Okay. So yeah, tofu is something, make sure you get organic. I always tell people that because soy is one of the most GMO things, but there is organic. I've seen it at Costco here in Canada. I actually think I saw it when I was in the US as well. And for those of you that are vegan, or if you have family members that are vegan, so they don't consume any animal products, the stir fry by itself is just enough.
I see.
And I didn't put any quantities because I know that sometimes you guys live in family, so you can make this for the whole family. So you can adjust the quantities for your own family, whether you have 4 people, 2 people, 5 people, however many.
Is virgin olive oil okay in place of avocado oil?
Virgin olive oil is an amazing nutrient dense thing, but it's not good when it's exposed to heat. So I would not cook with that. I would put that over salads. So leave it in its raw form. Don't cook with it. Avocado oil and coconut oil are some of the best that are, they can take a lot of heat. And they're not.
I eat the coconut oil, but I will get avocado oil.
Yeah, avocado oil is great. But if you already have coconut oil, then just use that. It's just as good, just as nutrient dense too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is something you can eat for lunch. This is something you can eat for dinner. Doesn't matter the time. You could pack it if you're going to be going to work. This is something you could pack.
So, thank you. So is pasta not allowed at all, or is it okay to have pasta in your diet?
So I would say,
because for me, as a vegetarian, I like a little bit of rice or pasta because I don't eat too much wheat.
That's right. So I would say, if you're going to have pasta, get the pasta that's made with chickpea flour or lentil flour rather than regular flour, because those are not going to raise your blood sugar as much as regular flour from wheat.
Oh, I didn't even know there was chickpeas.
Oh, there is. There is. Lots. Yeah. And if you want another source of protein, because you said you're vegetarian and you don't even consume eggs, you could add some lentils in this. Just boil them, cook them very simply. You could even put spices in them and just add it to that so that it can give you your protein intake as well.
You mentioned chickpeas pasta, and the other one was?
Lentil flour pasta.
Lentil flour pasta. Okay, thank you.
Made from beans. Yes, of course, you're welcome. Any other question, anybody, from anything that I've talked about? I know I had to go through it quickly. I try to jam as much information for you guys as I can, but I'm open to having you guys ask questions so that I can demystify or clarify.
This recipe is basically what I eat every day for lunch, the vegetables, all this, but I don't stir fry, I steam them.
Okay.
I just steam them with very little water in the microwave, and then I just put a little bit of butter, salt, and pepper.
Okay. So you could do the butter on top of this too. One thing I would recommend, if I were you, I would not cook things in the microwave because it does destroy some of the nutrients in the way that it actually cooks it. It would be so much better if you could do it the traditional way and put it over heat and on top of a stove.
Thank you.
And one more thing I want to talk about this particular recipe. You don't have to follow the vegetables I gave you. If you have vegetables that you really love and you are very inclined to eating them, make sure you put those in. The ones I gave you are really good because they have a lot of vitamins, they have a lot of nutrients. Like, for example, broccoli is good for you. Anything that's green is really good for you. Cauliflower is from the same family, the brassica family, really potent as well. Lots of vitamins, lots of minerals, lots of nutrients, as well as the bell peppers. They have a lot of vitamin C, for example. So that's important too. But if you have something that you like if you like eggplant a lot, then by all means, cut up some eggplant and throw it in there and eat that. Or if you
What
have
about squash? Different kinds
squash,
of
squash,
squash?
squash is great, but squash is one of the more sugary vegetables. Yeah, the ones that I put on this recipe is actually, these are the lowest in their sugar content. As you could see, root vegetables are not on this list as well. So root vegetables like, for example, potatoes, sweet potatoes, things like beets, those have a lot more sugar in them. I didn't put any of those on this list because I want to make sure that we maintain the sugar levels as low as possible to try to keep the spikes from happening in your blood sugar. And I do have, sorry, go ahead.
Cabbage.
Cabbage is okay.
Okay.
Cabbage is really great. Yes.
Thank you.
I know that one of my friends was saying she was going to make cabbage soup. So
How about the quinoa with that?
I love
I know.
cabbage.
Of course, especially for Canadian winters, what's better than soup?
Yes.
Not
No,
a lot.
my question is, what is the quinoa I can add with those?
Quinoa, yes, you could definitely do quinoa because that's actually very low on the glycemic index. So that's a grain. Quinoa is a grain. So if you want to have something instead of having, let's say, rice, quinoa is such a better choice. So I consume quinoa myself. It comes in different, so there's the white quinoa, there's red quinoa, black quinoa. You can also find it, I think the Bulk Barn carries it as a blend. But if you could stay with the ones that are more colorful, those are the ones that I would recommend. But quinoa is a great addition to make sure that you maintain your blood sugar on the lower side.
What about bulgur wheat?
A bulgur? Bulgur is good too. My favorite, and you will see in some of the upcoming sessions, you will see that quinoa is my go-to, and I put that in there for you guys to see. If you ever wonder what you should have, because you say, well, I feel like having some pasta, then quinoa is like a really, and by the way, they also make pasta out of quinoa. So if you want to feel like having pasta in the shape of pasta, they make that out of quinoa. They just make it into a flour and then they shape it like pasta.
Okay.
And I know that they have that at Costco.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? Anybody?
Simone, you were talking about oils that are good for frying, and you mentioned avocado oil. What do you think about peanut oil and sunflower oil as frying oils?
No. So any seed oils or nut oils outside of coconut, because that comes from its name, not good. First and foremost, because they go rancid very, very quickly. Very quickly. So the only oils that I would recommend for cooking, coconut and avocado, but coconut has a taste. So a lot of people get turned off by that because they don't like the taste.
Yeah.
So I would say avocado oil is really great because it could take a lot of heat. Like its flash point is very high, so you could expose it to a lot of heat. Don't cook with extra virgin olive oil, any olive oil for that matter, even if it's a blend. Don't cook with it because what it does is it turns it carcinogenic. It destroys everything that's in it that's good. So all its nutrients are damaged, and then you take in damaged stuff into your body. So definitely coconut. And I know that for those of you that are not vegetarian or vegan and consume butter, you could cook with butter. That actually could take, because it's fat. So it could take a lot. Just like if you were to eat, let's say, for example, beef, there's some fat in beef. You don't even need to grease any kind of anything that you're cooking in. Like if you wanted to, let's say, saute some ground meat, you could just put it in the pan and start sauteing it without anything, because the fat that's in it will act as the lubricant. What
about olive oil, which is not extra virgin?
I would still not put it under heat.
Still not.
Olive oil should be eaten raw. That's right.
Simone, we do a lot of cooking with the clarified butter or
The
ghee,
ghee,
what
that's
you
right.
call.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that is good because that has a very high,
Fat content.
cooking point.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could definitely cook, and I've cooked with ghee. My friend made ghee for me. And I found that it was very tasty. It's actually probably better than butter as well. But butter's
Yes.
butter's a good choice as well. But definitely, and I know the people that eat, a lot of animal stuff, like they cook in lard, so the fat from the animal, which does not get as damaged as like the oils that, and remember guys, oils are actually highly refined unless they are cold pressed. The best way to extract it is when you don't put heat to it. You cold press it. That's why you see a lot of those words, cold pressed. It's to entice you to say, hey, this is healthy. They had there's no heat that damaged the nutrients in this oil. So the extraction, the way that it's extracted makes a huge difference. So, and since we're talking about oils, I'll give you the worst of the worst oil that you could consume. And I hope nobody consumes it. And if you are, please don't. Canola oil. I know it's cheap, so it's very cost effective, and that's on purpose because everything that's good for you costs a lot more money. But remember, it's an investment. It's an investment in your health, and nothing is as important as health. There's a proverb that I heard, which I think is worth sharing. And I don't know whether it's like, I think it's a Chinese proverb, but don't quote me on that. It says, a poor man has 1,000 wishes, something I'm paraphrasing. A rich man has just one. So rich people only want their health because they already have money, and people who are not, they look for other things. So it's important to always invest in your health. Like if you're sick, that's all you would want. A rich man that's sick will only want his health. He's not even going to care about money. Everybody should look at it like that. So canola oil is probably one of the most damaging because canola, even though it's good, it's actually the most genetically modified oil. The most. And then second to that would be vegetable oil. Again, very damaging, especially because a lot of people, and trust me, I know my mom used to fry potatoes in vegetable oil. Just terrible. Now we know what I know now. And you shouldn't fry your potatoes. You should just bake them if you want to have potatoes. And so in that order, canola oil, and then vegetable oil, and then seed oils. A lot of people, and if you look even for the ladies, if you're looking for anything for your face, for skincare, and you see that, oh, it's made with safflower oil or sunflower oil, those are not good. And oftentimes they are not cold extracted. And again, as much as you can, buy organic. I will never stop saying that because organic is the cleanest, it has the most nutrients, and it's difficult to come by, but it is worth investing because it's your health and you get it just once. All right, any other question that I can answer for anybody? Anu, you are muted. If
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I think it has been a very interesting session, and I can see from the people attending that Partha Sarthiji, it seems like you are diabetic, so obviously you had a lot of questions. But I think all the other people who are there, they probably have a much better idea as to what they should be cautious about, cognizant about, and take care of their diabetic health.
one of the sessions, as you guys remember from, I'm sure that you did get the email. One of the sessions that I'm going to be doing is in the coming weeks is on managing blood sugar. So this very tied in with this, and how you can manage some of the things that you could do to manage the blood sugar. And I'm not saying that this is only for people that are already diagnosed with diabetes, because it's not. Even people who don't have the diagnosis yet will feel it. So for example, I don't have the diagnosis, but when I do and I know over the holidays, everybody does it. When I do consume sweets, I feel it so much. You guys, for me, it feels like, because I eat very healthy. And what I put for you guys as your recipes is typically what I eat almost every day. Today I had a salad, and every day I have a salad for lunch. So Anu, thank you. What you said, that you're starting to implement that as well. So I have a salad for lunch, and it's full of a lot of things, like different types. Like I'll put kale and spinach, and I put some dandelion the other day. So some bitters. I put radicchio, which is also very bitter, but really good for the liver. So even for me, when I eat off of my usual, you guys, I feel like I have a hangover, and I call that a food hangover. I really do. The next day, I have brain fog. I'm lethargic. I can't move. One of my personal friends is here. She's joining us tonight, Videshi. Videshi knows we've gone out and we've eaten, and I text her the next day and I tell her I feel like crap, because food has that much of an impact on us. It makes you feel lethargic. It affects your mood. It affects your mind. You don't feel like going to do any, like even exercising doesn't look like, oh, I don't feel like that. I just want to lay down and do nothing because I don't feel good. And what do we do when we don't feel good? When we're sick or we don't feel well, we just want to lay down to get better. So a lot of times we feel like by laying down after we've done the damage with food, we're going to feel better. Of course, the body is going to eliminate all of that, but it's still important to give it what it needs to get you to feeling better. So it's still important to hydrate. It's still important to give it the nutrients that it needs so that it can continue to work and continue to function properly, so that your digestion continues, so that you're able to eliminate all the damaged stuff that you ate the night before or the day before. So you still want to be able to go, number 2, to the bathroom to detoxify. You want to be able to sweat. So those things are still important, but you feel the damage. Food has just as much of damage effects as alcohol does. So especially at this time of the year right now, with the holidays coming, very important to be good, very important to remember that you still have to make good choices. I'm not saying, stay on the diet, although if you do have anything that's dire, if you have a diagnosis that's very dangerous, then definitely you have to make sure you're very careful. But even if you're going to indulge a little bit, try to indulge with the good things rather than, feel like, oh, well, just going to do the worst of the worst, and then you really feel horrible. And a lot of times you probably all remember that when you do something that you know is not good for you, it affects you here so much. You feel guilty. You feel really bad. You beat yourself up. Why did I do that? Why did I have it? Oh my God, I'm terrible. And then you go through that in your mind as well and your body. So the two of them together, you get really low. So remember to stay on top of it. I mean, we're going to meet again next week. Next week, we're going to talk about cancer. So that's an important one too. Number 2 killer in the world. We'll go over that as well. That's a trickier one. But we'll definitely talk about how you can prevent it, some of the things that you can eat to make sure that you stay on top of your game. And I want you guys to know fasting is important to do. And this is part of every culture. Every culture has its fasting. It's important to do to give your body a chance to digest properly, to get the detoxification pathways going, make sure it eliminates what it needs. The body gets a break from processing so much stuff. And it's also going to pay you back with feeling really good, mentally, physically. All right, everybody. Well, it's 9 o'clock, coming on 9 o'clock. Thank you for your attention. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sorry, before we all leave, Simone, can you generate a link for the WhatsApp group and can you post it in the chat here?
Oh, absolutely. So Anu was kind enough to create the WhatsApp group, and let me get it for you. And if anybody wants to be added, I think this is it. Yes. Okay, so here's the link. and I will put it in the chat right now. And if anybody wants, I've added a few people last week. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, everybody, and I will put that in. One second. All right, everybody, here it is.
Awesome. So anybody who wants to join the group can just do that through this link.
Right now, Jasprit?
I mean, yeah, I mean, if they want, they can join right now, or they can save the link for later. Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's only letting me text it to you, Jaspreet. So
Oh, I can put it in the chat actually.
perfect. That's it.
Where? Oh. Just give me 1 second.
Let me try here.
Oh,
I
there
think
it is.
that went to everybody. Yeah, there we go. So click on that link, everybody, and it'll give you the opportunity to join the chat. I already added a few people in it, but if you want to join, and if you have, just like I said to you all last week, if you have any questions, put them in there. I get notified. I'm able to answer you throughout the day. Like if you have a question like, hey, can I eat this instead of this? I know you put this in the recipe, but I'm wondering if instead of bell peppers, I can use some other thing, squash, for example.
Perfect.
Just a minute. We'll give everyone if they want to use that link, and then we'll call it a night.
That's right. And next week, let me just look at my. Next week is week 3. We're going to be talking about cancer.
Yes. So just everyone knows, I think the next 3 sessions, I'm going to my home country, India, for a little bit, and but my staff is all going to be here, and Simone, of course, is going to be conducting all the classes and everything. So yeah, I will be just seeing you, I guess, now just before Christmas, mid-December after that.
We'll miss you, Anu.
Have a nice trip.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can't believe how the year has gone by. It's already just coming close to.
Oh, I know.
Will we be, sorry, will we be able to access the sessions that we are
Yes.
having?
Yes.
We can go back.
Jasprit is just going to tell. Jasprit, what are you going to do? Tell them.
Yeah, so all of these sessions will be on YouTube in their entirety, and we will also have some short form content created with this as well. So
That's right.
YouTube, Instagram, and it'll also be on our website.
Thank you.
No worries.
All right, everybody. Well, have a great night. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your questions and your attention. I will see you all next week, 8
Thank
p.m.
you.
on Thursday. You're very welcome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks very much.
Simone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.